So, could an AI actually write a novel? I mean, not just a couple of paragraphs, but a real full-on story with a plot that actually keeps you hooked. Well, I decided to find out. And I actually did it. In this explainer, we are going to break down exactly how it all went down.
And look, I'm not talking about some jumbled up mess of words. This is a coherent 8,000-word story. A real story. If that sounds wild to you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button for @BrandTechOff because you're going to want to see what's coming next. The big question is, how on earth is this even possible?
Because let's be real, up until now, this has felt like a totally impossible quest, right? I mean, anyone can get an AI to spit out a few paragraphs. That's easy. But getting it to write a long, compelling story that makes sense from start to finish, that has been a whole other ballgame. Okay, so here's the techie reason why this is so hard. The problem is really two things. First, you've got discourse coherence. Basically, after a few thousand words, the AI just forgets what's going on. It loses track of the plot, of characters. It's like having a conversation with someone with terrible short-term memory. They just can't hold the thread. And second, there's narrative complexity. The stories just end up feeling flat, kind of repetitive, kind of predictable, and they're missing all those cool interwoven plot lines that make human stories so good.
So, to tackle this whole impossible quest, we're actually going to structure this explainer itself like a classic story. We're going to follow the hero's journey, straight out of the legendary screenwriting guide, Save the Cat. So for today, think of me as the hero. And this crazy AI novel, well, that's my quest.
And you know, every hero needs their call to adventure, right? That thing that kicks off the whole journey. For me, it wasn't some mysterious old map. It was a new research paper that described what I can only call a magic weapon, a tool that might just make long-form AI writing a reality.
It's called STORYWRITER, and the idea behind it is something called a multi-agent framework. Now, that sounds complicated, but the idea is actually super simple and honestly pretty genius. Instead of having one single, totally overwhelmed AI trying to do everything at once, you have a team of specialized AIs that work together, and each one has its own specific job.
And here's what that team looks like. First up, you've got the outline agent. Think of this one as the master architect, creating this super detailed map for the entire story. Then the planning agent steps in. This is like the director, figuring out the best way to reveal all those events to build suspense and keep you turning the pages. And finally, you have the writing agent. This is the wordsmith, the one actually writing the chapters, but it's smart enough to constantly summarize what's happened so far to stay focused and on track. It's a brilliant system. And here's the kicker. This thing actually works. The research paper showed that STORYWRITER was cranking out high-quality stories that were consistently around 8,000 words long. All of a sudden, my impossible quest, well, it didn't seem so impossible anymore. This was that fun part of the journey where my new magic weapon seemed like it could do anything. But you know how stories go. Just when I was feeling on top of the world, we ran into the monsters. And in the world of AI writing, the monsters aren't dragons, they're these very real, very scary problems with quality, ethics, and even basic safety. The first monster is the one we all kind of suspect, right? Quality. This quote from uBook's blog just nails it. Even when an AI gets all the words right, the story can feel hollow. It's missing that one thing you can't really describe, that thing we call a soul. And then there's the safety monster, and this one is no joke. See, an AI has no idea when it's lying. There was this now infamous AI-generated book on Amazon about foraging for mushrooms, and it was giving out advice that wasn't just wrong, it was potentially lethal. The stakes here can be incredibly high. And on top of all that, we walked right into a total minefield of other issues. We've got a flood of AI-generated spam books clogging up the marketplace. There's a huge risk of the AI accidentally plagiarizing stuff since it's trained on, well, everything. There was even this crazy case where fake AI books were published under the name of a real author, Jane Friedman. And to cap it all off, the US Copyright Office says if a human isn't seriously involved, you can't even copyright the work. Ouch! So this was it. The low point of the quest, that moment where it felt like the whole project was about to crash and burn because of all these monsters. But this was also the turning point. I realized the solution wasn't just to get a better AI, it was to get a better understanding of where the human fits into all this. And this quote from AI writing expert Kenny Kane just perfectly captures that shift. The key is, you don't treat the AI like a magical write my book button. No, you treat it like an expert consultant you bring in to help you diagnose your own ideas.
This completely changes the game. It leads to this much smarter, much more ethical workflow. You start by using the AI to poke holes in your own ideas. Then you collaborate with it, kind of like a junior writer. But, and this is the absolute most important part, you have to heavily edit and rewrite what it gives you. You have to inject your own voice, your own soul back into the text. Because at the end of the day, you are the author. All the big decisions, the quality, the originality, that's all on you.
Okay, so with this new and improved human-in-the-loop workflow, we've slain the monsters, we've finished the manuscript. We've basically reached the finale of our quest. But now what? Now we have to actually get this thing out into the world. How do we publish an AI-assisted novel on a huge platform like Amazon KDP without getting into trouble?
So, Amazon's Kindle direct publishing platform has drawn a really clear line here, and you have to pay attention. AI generated is when the AI tool actually created the content, the text, the images, whatever. If that's what you did, you absolutely must tell Amazon. But AI assisted, which is what we've been talking about, is when you created the content and just used AI for things like brainstorming or editing. In that case, you don't need to disclose it. Knowing the difference between these two is everything.
So, the big takeaway here is this simple set of best practices. Focus on quality. Please, don't just churn out spam. Be ethical. Disclose honestly if your book is AI-generated. And remember, you, not the AI, are legally responsible for everything in that book. And finally, you gotta stay informed, because you can bet these rules are gonna keep changing.
And that brings us to the end of our journey. We started with what felt like an impossible challenge, we found an incredible new tool, we faced down some pretty scary monsters, and we discovered the secret wasn't about the AI alone, but about the partnership between the human and the machine, which leaves us all with one final, massive question to chew on. In an age where AI can co-write our stories, what does it really mean to be an author?